Hello everybody, Disney Chris here again. It's time for another update of the Disneyland Magical Audio Tour. Today is October 20th, 2017. I have been diligently working on adding new tracks to the site, most of which I have already explained what they are. But for those who have not seen my recent videos, I will go through the additions that I have made over the past 2 weeks since my last update. I haven't made a ton of additions because it is a time-consuming process to do the final editing. But I have made several, and I will go through them right now. This will probably be a little bit shorter of a video than some of my past ones. First of all, this is the folder where I keep all of my files that are ready for final editing. And as you can see, there's 36 items in here. These are all the Chapter 20 and Chapter 21 additions that I'm going to be making over the next few weeks, next month. But there's only actually 34 because I have 2 additional files in here that are not audio files, these 2 down here. So there's actually, I have 34 tracks left to work on to be completely finished with both Chapter 20 and Chapter 21. And if you look here, how I have them organized, there's only 1 track left for Chapter 20. So Chapter 20 is almost completely done. But there's actually 3 tracks that need to be done, and I'll explain that as I go through the chapter. I only have 1 of the 3 set up for final editing, and there's a reason for that. And then I have all of these for Chapter 21. There's 33 left to finish Chapter 21. Some of these are partially already completed. I'll explain that too. In fact, I'm going to explain that right now. So even though I have 33 left, it's not exactly 33 because some of the audio in these files is already finalized. So I'll get rid of that folder. This is a list of all the different songs I have for all the different medleys that I have set up. Anything that I have highlighted in turquoise is done. And if I'm done with the full track, I've highlighted the title of the track to say that the full track is done. So all this is done. And then as I get a little further down, this is not done. But as you can see, a lot of it is already highlighted in blue, which means that all of the blue tracks of these medleys have been completed. That's why I said that even though they're not done, part of them are done. In fact, on this one, more than half is already done. The reason for that is because there's another version of the same thing. Chapter 20's version of the Country Music Jubilee is completed. And a lot of the tracks that are in that medley are the same as the tracks in the Chapter 21 medley, so that's why those are done already. No sense in doing the same songs twice, so if they're duplicates, I've already done them. Same goes for these. A lot of the songs here are in that Chapter 20 version, so I've highlighted all of the ones that are done. I've been working on the Roland River Review stuff for Chapter 21, and I kind of been, just to keep things a little more interesting for myself, I've kind of been skipping around, and that's why I have like 1 song done here, 1 song done there, and I haven't been doing like a full, I've been kind of breaking up and working on all different tracks at the same time. I'll do 1 song, and then I'll go to another track, and I'll work on another song. And also, there's a version of the Roland River Review that is on Chapter 20, which is a conglomerate of all the different featured performers and that's why some of these are also done down here, because I've already done the chapter 20 version, which has several of these songs in that already. So that's why some of these are highlighted already. I'm definitely seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. As I've said before, I'm probably going to stop working on these 2 chapters after Thanksgiving and concentrate on working on some Christmas audio. So it is possible, and it's a month away from now, so it is possible that I could possibly finish chapters 20 and 21 by then. It's possible that I will not finish it also. It's kind of up in the air, but even if I don't finish it, it's probably going to be really nearly completed. But I do want to get some Christmas stuff added to the site, and really I prefer to work on it during the Christmas season rather than, in July. So I'm going to work on it after Thanksgiving until the end of the year. Whatever I'm working on when after Thanksgiving is going to get dropped, no matter what point I'm at, and I'm transitioning to working on Christmas audio. So that's where that stands. And so let me go through what I've added to the site since we last chatted. First of all, I had mentioned in the last video, and let me explain something here. If you're using, I don't know why it started doing this, but the past couple days it's been doing this. If you're using Firefox, there's been a strange issue since Firefox did a recent update where these play bars aren't showing up, but they're actually there. See, if you scroll over them where they're supposed to be, they pop up. You don't see them, and then if you put your mouse over where they're supposed to be, they're there. So if you're looking at the page and you don't see the music bar, just run your mouse over that area and it'll pop up. I don't know why that's been happening, but that's kind of annoying, but it's not that big a deal if you know to just run your mouse over it. Anyway, the first track I added since my last update, I actually added it later that day. I mentioned I was going to add it that day, and I did end up adding it that day after I recorded my video. And that is The Wonderful World of Color, Disneyland After Dark. It is a pretty much almost, there's a few things I left out, like I left out the Fantasy in the Sky segment from this because I have it as its own separate track, but other than that, and I think the Dapper Dans sing a song, and I left that out too, but most of the entire special is here. But where there's commercial breaks and where there's editing glitches and whatnot, I fixed it all beautifully, so everything transitions very well into each other. There's a lot of visual gags with Walt signing autographs that don't make sense if you're not seeing what's going on. There's a lot of background noise during Walt Disney's different introductions. I cleaned all that up. I edited it out. I made it all make sense as an audio experience. It took me days, if not a week, to do this track. It was a really difficult edit, but I'm really happy with how it came out. It really is a great way to experience this as an audio only experience rather than watching the television program. It's a whole different way to appreciate this classic TV special. So please do check this out. I'm very proud of the work I put into this one. The next new track I added was another very difficult edit, believe it or not. The Firehouse 5 plus 2. This was difficult not because of the music, but because of between each. This was a live recording at Disneyland in, I believe, 1962. And during the musical portions, the sound is terrific, and I had to do very little cleanup on it. But it's the in between each song, the introduction, the live ambiance of the Golden Horseshoe Theater. It was really noisy, a lot of disturbing background sounds of, the audience making noise, the band, moving their instruments around and banging into things. And I spent a lot of time cleaning that up as best as I possibly could. Took out a huge amount of background hiss that was there. These are all introductions by a legendary Disney animator who was also part of the Firehouse 5 Plus 2, Ward Kimball, who had a very dry and charming sense of humor, so he's the perfect person to make the introductions. He was kind of always the designated host of the live concerts that the Firehouse 5 put on, so it's great to hear him introducing all these songs and everything. But I wanted it to sound clean, and I just kind of did a whole, improvement on the album overall. Also, there's a side A and a side B, and I combined them so it's all one track, and it transitions so you don't notice that you're moving from one side of the album to the other. So I spent a good 5 days on this, and again, it was probably about 8 minutes of audio that took me that long, because the music was easy to edit. It was just these short little in between each song introductions that were crazy and a lot of work, but I'm pretty happy with how it came out. So be sure to check that out too. A lot of work went into that one. So scrolling down, again, these play bars, if you just run your mouse over them, they'll show up. This is the only track that I have not completed yet, with 2 other exceptions that are exceptions, which are further down in the chapter, which I will explain in a minute. Again, this is going to be the same sort of thing that I went through with the Firehouse 5 album. This is taken from an album that was recorded live, and like the Firehouse 5, it has all that background noise of the audience and all sorts of banging around and clanging around. And I want to clean all that up and make it a lot more of an enjoyable listening experience without all those distractions. And there's a lot of, editing mistakes and just, sound issues. And so I have so far, this is about a 35-minute track. It's from an album from the 60s, and I've so far edited 3 minutes of it. And this is going to be even worse than the Firehouse 5, because that was like 8 minutes and then the rest was music. This track is all dialogue for the most part. There's a few short little songs, that parody songs they sing, but for the most part it's all stand-up comedy, it's all dialogue, and it's going to be a major headache to edit it. I'm going to do it. It's on my agenda. I have to just grin and bear it and get it done. It'll be so worth it when it's done, because it's a really great piece of nostalgia and Disney history here. But I'm putting it off because I put so much work into the Firehouse 5 and the Wonderful World of Color episode that I need a break from that intensive editing. So I'm kind of putting it off till I get a few other things done that are a little bit easier to edit. But that'll get done eventually. So really, this is the only track I have left, and this chapter will be done. But, however, further down on the page, there are 2 tracks that are not done as well. And I can't do these yet because I'm kind of depending on somebody to come through for me who has promised me some things, and hopefully they'll come through with what they promised so that I can get these tracks done. So far, I am not, haven't gotten what I need yet from him, but that doesn't mean that I'm not going to. It just means that he's a really busy fella. So, I'm going to be getting a track list for the Pixie Hollow Enchantment so that I can replicate the live, water shows that happen at night in this area. He says he has a track list. He's going to get it to me, but he hasn't yet. So I can't do anything until I get his track list. So this is on hold. The other thing I need from him is this Grad Night Blast. There's a piece of music. It's a version of A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes that is used for this event. That he says he doesn't have it personally, but he knows someone who might have it. And this is a highly coveted piece of music, actually. It's used for a lot of different things in the Disney parks, and no one has been able to get it. It was actually originally from a California adventure show that was held in the Hyperion Theater called Steps in Time. And the entire soundtrack to Steps in Time has been released, except for this one song, which is a kind of a contemporary version of A Dream is a Wish Your Heart Makes. And it's something that people who collect Disney parks music like myself have been hoping and praying will pop up someday, because it's not only used for this Grad Night Blast, but it's used for many, many other things in live events and special events. I know it's been used for like Disney's birthday celebrations. Disneyland, when on July 17th every year, Disneyland holds a special town square ceremony to honor Disneyland's birthday. It's been used for that several times, where the characters come out and that's the music they play as the characters are walking around town square. So yeah, it's hopefully he'll come through on that. I'm kind of being, optimistic by leaving these on the page and not removing them, because I'm just hoping and praying that it'll come through, because these are things I really, really feel need to be part of this chapter. And worst case scenario, I'll just take these out and put them back at a later date when I can get the audio for it. But I'm hoping he'll come through for me by the end of the year. So other than that Skiles and Henderson track, those are the only other two things I need to do, but I can't do them yet. So really the Skiles and Henderson is the only thing I have left to do for now. So once that's done, this chapter is done, except for those other two tracks. So say a little prayer for me. We'll have a group prayer that those tracks will show up. Next chapter, chapter 21. This has a little bit more work left to do, but I have just 33 songs left out of 100, which is not bad. I have, 2/3 of the chapter is completed. Again, it's doing it on this page too. Just slide your mouse over that thing, and it should show up. The page is still loading. See this little thing? So it's not doing it. But if you slide your little mouse over where the play bar is supposed to be, it should pop up. And if it doesn't, because it's not doing it at all right now, just refresh the page, reload the page. It's really annoying that it started doing this, but it's not the end of the world. Don't panic. You'll still be able to play everything. It's just one extra step. I don't know why it's doing it. It's not doing it on Chrome or Explorer. It's only doing it on Firefox. So I did yesterday actually update the version of the music player that I use. It's called Pro Magic Audio Player, I believe is the name of the program, the plugin that I use for this. And I actually did an update on yesterday. I purchased the newest version of it, and I replaced it. It's set up so that you don't have to make any changes. You just upload the new version, and it automatically will take out the old version and put in the new version. So I really didn't have to do that much other than buy the new version, which was only $20. So I mean, not that big of a deal. But then I had to upload the new information onto my as a plugin onto my website host, and then everything automatically updated. So maybe things will be a little bit easier for you all who use Chrome and Explorer that have been having issues. I don't know if it's going to make any difference. But in January, I'm going to look into getting a brand new player to replace this that's hopefully a little bit more friendly for those using Chrome, especially. Because a lot of people, I think a good half of you that use my site are Chrome users. Anyway, I've only added 4 new tracks to this chapter since last we met, but I'll tell you what they are. The first one is all the way down track number 40, which is Papa Do Run Run. Oh, and I didn't even finish talking about Chapter 20. I'll go back to Chapter 20 in a minute. I got so distracted I didn't go through all the things I added for Chapter 20. But let me just explain what I added since we're here. Papa Do Run Run, I had this on my site before, but it was only like 18 minutes, so I added an extra 20 minutes, and it's a more comprehensive version of the same. I mean, it's all the same music that was there before, plus a lot of more extra music. So it's an extended version of Papa Do Run Run, which, for those who don't know, it's a band that performed live in Disneyland for decades, and they are a Beach Boys cover band. And they usually played at the Tomorrowland Terrace. Something else I did is originally I was going to have a medley of Mecco, which is a disco group, and Voyage, another disco group, as one track, but I decided to split them up into 2 separate tracks. So Voyage has their own and Mecco has their own. I finished Mecco, and Mecco is a lot of fun because it's all music based on films. It's disco versions of film music. It's got a 15-minute Star Wars medley, which is kind of their most famous piece of music. You'll probably recognize it. It has Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It has Superman, the 1978 Christopher Reeve Superman, as a disco version of that music. And then a really fun 15-minute medley of The Wizard of Oz, all disco. Not The Wiz, the actual Wizard of Oz, all in disco. So this is a lot of fun. If you like disco music, I do really like disco music, believe it or not, but I know a lot of people don't really care for it. But if you do, enjoy disco music to a degree, you'll probably really enjoy this. And if you like film scores, you'll enjoy it. So it's a lot of fun. Rollin' River Review featured performers. I finished 1 track in this section, special guest stars. This is all of the performers who appeared after the Bluegrass Week, Pop Week, all the themed weeks. The event went on for several weeks after with just random guest stars each week that didn't fit a particular theme. That's all of these groups. And I will be providing a track list of all this stuff from Melanie, who will post it in the show notes, which will be coming in a few days after this video comes out. So you'll be able to see all of the guest stars and what songs they're singing. And then the last song that I added on this chapter was Mickey Finn's, which is all kind of honky-tonk piano, banjo, like ragtime type music. And they often performed at the Tomorrowland stage, which is kind of bizarre to have that type of music in Tomorrowland, but there you go. But this is from an album from the 70s that they recorded. There's not a lot of recordings. They were more of a live group than a recording group, so I did find an album of theirs from the 70s, which is actually very fun, so I'm including that to represent them. And they were regulars they kind of made the theme park rounds quite a bit. I know they did a lot of performing at Six Flags Magic Mountain in the 80s, but they also appeared quite a few times in Disneyland as well. There's a television special that I found on YouTube where they're actually performing at Magic Mountain with all sorts of guest celebrities. I think Phyllis Diller is in it, and other, that puppet Madam. If anybody remembers that weird puppet with the weird big nose and weird jawline, Madam, that was kind of like a diva type character. She's in it. It's really bizarre, this special, but it gives you more of an idea about what Mickey Finn's was. Anyway, that's chapter 21. Let's go back to chapter 20 and finish that, because I kind of got excited and forgot to tell you the other things I added. There's 4 more that I didn't mention, which are actually kind of related to the ones I just mentioned for chapter 21. So page is still loading. Scrolling down to track 33 when it decides to appear. Okay. This is a track I had on here previously, Country Music Jubilee, but I added a lot more songs to it. So I think originally I I added about a half hour of music to this track, and I completed it. I found a lot more names of country artists that appeared in the park than I had originally had access to, so I extended this to include the new artists that I confirmed played in this event. The Great American Music Machine, I also added a little bit of extra music to this because, again, I found the names of a few more artists that appeared in this event. And then scrolling down to track 47, Papa Do Run Run, this is the exact same thing that is on chapter 21. I added this new version to both chapters. So there's only a few things that I duplicated on each page, but this is one of them, and I just felt that it fits the theme of each chapter, because Papa Do Run Run performed in Disneyland After Dark for decades, and they're kind of an important part of the puzzle for Disneyland After Dark. And again, they're also a dance band, so they fit the Disneyland Bandstand theme, so they really belong on both chapters. So I duplicated this. So there are a few doubles on these chapters, but I tried to keep things as different as possible. And then the next thing I added is the Roland River Review featured performers. Now this is like the one on chapter 21, but I also included 1 or 2 artists that were in those themed weeks. So this is longer than the version on the chapter 21, because it includes all of those special guests that appeared after the themed weeks, plus a representation of each of those themed weeks as well. So this kind of covers the whole spectrum of the event, where the other page, it kind of splits it up more. And that's true of a lot of tracks on this chapter. I kind of created one track to represent everything, and then on the other chapter, I broke it up into more specific artists and one track representing each artist or each event, or, So anyway, that is everything I have added. Sorry to kind of jump around a little bit like that, but I kind of got excited to show you chapter 21, I guess. So just as a final thing, I want to wish everybody a happy Halloween and a safe Halloween. And lastly, I want to just mention that in the box below this video, you will find a link to my Patreon account and a way to make a one-time donation to my PayPal account. It does cost money to run this site, to add content to this site. I live on a fixed income as I am a disabled person. So any contribution you care to make would be greatly appreciated. It helps me bring the magic to you all if you can make a small donation and support what I do. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you all in a couple weeks. Bye-bye.